Welcome to the garage.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
It's good
Emma
to be-
Bradbury.
Yes.
What's your middle name?
It is K, actually.
K-A-Y? Emma K. Bradbury.
Yes.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Nice garage. It's
Thank
actually
you.
very empty. I see a lot of garages that have a lot of stuff in it.
I don't have a lot of stuff.
It's nice. It's a nice. I have a tiny place and I have a lot of stuff in it, and I don't understand where it all comes from.
Tiny place, a lot of stuff. I'm actually, part of me is terrified of having too much stuff.
It's a good thing.
Good thing to be
have.
terrified of?
My mom and I are big on knickknacks, and there's the craft show this weekend.
There's the
So-
craft show?
Yeah, it's like the Christmas Craftsman show.
Okay.
There's two that happen in the spring and fall at the Richmond Raceway. They're like big craft shows.
Okay.
And yeah, so we like to buy a lot of things like that, like useless things that we don't really need. And I have a lot of plants too. That
Do ya?
adds a lot. That takes up a lot of space.
Did you see my orchid in
I
there?
did notice
Yeah.
it. And you know what? I've had two orchids. They're both still alive. I've never had them bloom again, though.
But are there leaves?
Yes.
How do you know it's alive? The roots?
So the leaves and the roots.
Yeah.
They'll stay green, and it'll grow new leaves and stuff. It just won't grow.
Weird.
And I think it's just the lighting, and they're just finicky little things. I also think I'm pretty bad about moving all of my plants.
Moving.
Yes. So I'll just like it'll be in one spot one week, and then I just won't like it, and I'll have to move it. But then I
Bad.
have to consider where it is within the light, and so sometimes it's something that I've get flustered with a lot. It's disorganized how my plants are in a way that I have to feel like I need to readjust them a lot of times.
Okay.
So
Huh.
I've told myself that I put this one in the window and I'm not moving it from the window.
The orchid.
Yes, and we'll see. And it was outside all. That's the thing too. Like I'll put them outside in the summer, and then when you move them back in, you gotta like rearrange everything to find
Gosh.
spots.
See, now that just gives me anxiety. I feel like that's a big burden you're bearing for plants.
Yeah.
You must love them.
Yes. What I need is more like shelves, like to put like what do you call them? The
Like wire shelving or
like the floating shelves, like where you just
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
like I mean like what you have above your head.
I understand.
But not that thick, just little.
Well, plant floating shelves. I can picture it.
Yeah. If you're ever on Pinterest or anything
I've
like
seen
that,
it before. Yeah.
definitely.
So I and now humans are like snowflakes. Everybody's different. No two people are the exact same.
Sure.
So while I may feel this particular way, that doesn't mean that. But if I have too much stuff, and which is why you see a rather empty garage, even my home is more empty than not. I feel like if I have too much stuff, too much clutter, it clutters my mind, and I can't operate the way I want. Does that not the case for you?
Yeah, I mean it definitely bothers me, and it's a distraction.
Yet you do it.
Yes. And that's why, working from home can be challenging sometimes. Like, I definitely have to focus in. And a lot of times, too, I'm out and about anyways. So instead of, coming back to the office, in my home office, just staying out and, going to Panera or something.
You
and
do
working
that.
I do that a lot. Just because that way I'm just... One, I think it's not as wasteful, because if I've got to be somewhere here at 9 a.m. and then somewhere else at 12.
Why go home?
I do have a few hours that I need to follow up on emails, and I could just go to the next Starbucks or whatever. And
Well, this should
do
make
that.
your boss happy. I mean, you're out working like you should be, and you're not at home doing nothing. That's
right.
good.
Yes. Yeah. I have to know that. And I can't, when I am at home working, I focus. But yes, no, there is something to be said about your clutter. Your physical clutter gets into your mental clutter. And that's why professional organizers are, fabulous people.
Have you had experience with a professional organizer? Sounds like you have not.
I have not. I know a few of them, and have had know a lot of, my mom has done it a few times, and just to hear them talk about things and how, even just organizing your kitchen, it's the way their feng shui is real. I would never
It's a
think
thing.
about it. Yeah. It's okay, so you use this utensils in this bowl 90% of the time, then you need to have that right there, not the pot that you never use or whatever.
Which, when you say it like that, it makes complete sense. But then you probably got people with a bunch of stuff right in front of them they never use.
And you're like, so if your stove is right here and the cabinet's right there, don't have your stuff like way across the room.
Now you're walking across the room.
Yeah, so having everything like, which is just, I think a organizer would love working with me because I'm just chaos.
Yeah, there's a lot to organize.
Yes.
So tell me, that tells me a little bit about you. Where and so I've started by asking people a little bit about like, who are you? Give me a paragraph that kind of summarizes who you are. But let me ask you a question. Where do you get your sense of self-worth? What how do you? I guess that's probably a good way of asking it. What makes you feel important?
Good question. I mean, I think I do selfishly a little bit have a we've talked about that word.
Altruistic, intruistic? I still don't really know that. I should have my
motivation. Where, I mean, my drive is to, make money and be successful.
Okay.
But that being said, I mean, the why, I guess, behind it is because of you want to live and be there and for your friends and family, I guess, is...
So when you say you want to live and be there for your friends and your family, like be there in the moment, break that down for me.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So like, so having yourself together and successful,
okay,
so that you can be around and present in the moment with others, and then also be able to lend a hand when needed.
Interesting.
So I feel like I have to have that established personally so that I can be a resource to my friends and family. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense, but I would almost, and I'm not telling you how to categorize your stuff, but to me it almost sounds like you got friends and family up here, and success, I mean, maybe not far, but it's like in order to be able to be here for them, you got to do this first, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess you can look at it different ways, but yes, like, some people will just be open about how, they absolutely, like, they do. I just know that I can be more of a, not selfish person, just more of a independent, like, I want to do things how I want to do things kind of way.
Okay.
Where there's people who are very much about collaboration, and I'm just not, getting a little off sidetrack.
No, all good.
That's how I kind of think about it. And that's a mindset thing not mindset. That's something about me that I've learned, that to help others. How do I want to say this? My natural instinct isn't to be like, oh, let me help other people, but I.
Do you still?
I feel like I'm gonna start saying so it's gonna be like, I was gonna say that no, it's like I don't really want to help people, and that's not the case either.
We're getting part of the true Emma right now.
I think to your point, I just feel like, I guess there's a balance of. But then you talk about like mothers. I mean, the whole thing of like, nowadays that moms have to take care of themselves first and self-care before they can help their kids.
Well, let me speak to what you just said a little bit, and I don't think I think you were worried that you were starting to come off in a way like you were selfish and you didn't want to be perceived that way. But I mean, let me just, and I don't know, I may be reading into that.
No.
Is that accurate? Yeah. But see, here's the thing: is you cannot take care of other people if you can't first take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And so and that can go in many different directions. But like charity, you can't really give money away that you don't have. You can't give time away that you don't have.
Yes.
And so like to be able to be there and present for your friends and your family, to be able to care for others, you cannot do that if you can't care for yourself first.
Right.
So you have to kind of be top of your own list before you can even start thinking about other people.
Right.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right. And like there are people, to your point, like that are out there looking for handouts and whatnot, whereas
I'm geeking out so hard at your reaction to yourself. So let me, what do you, give me a little bit of your backstory. Are you from around here?
Something more
hook a 90-degree turn.
Yeah. not dig myself a deeper hole. Yeah, so I am actually from the Richmond area for the most part. My family moved around a good little bit until we landed in Hanover. I went to Atlee High School.
Okay.
Then from there, graduated, went to Virginia Tech. Then
Go Hokies.
yeah. So my parents were Hokies too, so it's that was the one and only school I applied
I understand,
to, and
yeah.
luckily got in.
What was your major?
Marketing.
Okay. Did you follow through? I mean, you completed it, and
Yep.
do you feel like you use what you did? Now, do you use it?
So it's a good argument. So I'm in sales now, so kind of. I think
Sure.
I think having a general business background is helpful for just to get by in life. Not that there's anything against an English major, but unless you're going to go into teaching, it gets you a degree. But I just mean business, it gives you a lot of common sense in the job world, in my perspective.
Sure.
But I don't really do a lot of like strategic marketing. I do a little bit of social media stuff here and there, but and market, sales is a part of that. So, but to the truth, like I'm not like working for the Martin agency.
Yeah, well, and here, the thing about, I think any degree, whether, and granted, I don't have a degree, so I guess I'm kind of speaking about something I don't really know, although I did college for a little bit, but I think any degree, English, marketing, business, foreign language, getting to that end goal, you may not use you may not use that particular thing in your field of business, but I think you become a more rounded individual by getting to that end goal, which will help in all facets of life.
Yeah, and it's funny, the statistics of marketing. So this, like if you go into a general business degree, I think the statistic is like 50% go into sales. If you're a marketing major, I think 80% go into, and then don't quote me on those stats, but go into sales. And when I graduated, that was like the one thing I was like, I am not going into sales. I refuse to do that. And then here I am.
You're in sales?
I'm in sales, and I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like to do a lot of computer work or behind the scenes stuff. So like a lot of like chatting and meeting with people is more, which
relationship building.
Yes.
Yeah.
That kind of branding. So it is kind of funny how it's come, not full circle, but it's
a little ironic in its own way.
Yeah. So something I didn't want to end up doing, and now I can't imagine really doing anything else.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that. That's good you've got that.
Yeah.
So what is the biggest struggle with what you're doing now, or what's the biggest struggle with your job, if you had to say you had one?
Biggest struggle, honestly, a little bit of the fear of what's going to happen, and that's kind of something that outside of the control, like the economy wise. I don't know
Gotcha.
if we're gonna, and people just cut costs, and I've seen it already. People looking for ways to save money, or what I do is you can absolutely do it without us. So having, you can get rid of your junk on your own.
There's always going to be a subset of people who don't want to, or they're too old, or they got enough.
Yes.
But so I'm listening.
Right. But so no, just that just noticing how things are getting more expensive, and then people are looking ways to save money, and so that I feel like, and it's not a struggle. I guess maybe it's more of just where I fear, and trying to like look for ways to how I can still get in front of people and still show people that there's value to it, and it's not just about the money.
I understand. I think any industry to a degree, real estate, moving, services, and when economies get tough and tight, you're always going to have people looking for ways to cut costs and spend less money.
Yeah.
And so like there's going to be people who try to sell their own home. There's going to be people who still need to move, but they may try to sell their own home. Or there's going to be people who need to move and they try to move their own stuff. We can't ever get away from that possibility.
Right.
And so, but I guess, no job is 100% secure.
Right.
It's
a good point. And it's not, but there was during 2020, it was like people who were doing HVAC, like those essential workers, I'm sure people had to cut costs, but people still needed to get their heat fixed and whatnot. So I feel like there are some with a little bit more, but
definitely.
if
It's good. Mechanics. You're going to always need mechanics. Maybe. I don't know.
But if you're not good at your job, then, and teachers, that's an interesting, right now, because I feel like they're hiring really anyone.
Teachers?
Yes, because they have to, because there's not, the pool is very.
I think teachers get beat up. I think they get so beat up and they don't get paid enough, and people they're like, dude, I'm done. I can't keep. I don't know. Why do you think Why do you think they're taking anybody right now?
Because there's not enough. Like, there's more jobs available than there are teachers.
Supply and demand. Not enough supply of teachers. Demand for more. I made that up. I don't know if that's.
Same. That's what I mean, though, and it's that's why, like, if you notice, like, when we were in school, we had maybe one teacher work day a quarter. It was like a Monday. You got like half off. Like, now it's like once a month they get a random, like, work from home day, and I think it's for teachers. The teachers have to come in, but it's just so they're not having to deal with the students.
Interesting. They're trying quality of life.
Yes, and I think because they're just sometimes limited, that they might need those couple extra days for those teachers to get their extra work done, because they don't have an admin or not like a
student teacher aide or
yes,
help.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it's I have a lot of teacher friends that are in the Richmond, like, elementary school. Gosh, I just can't imagine ever dealing with.
I have a hard time. I don't have kids, but I have a hard time. I've got friends with kids, and they're great for an hour, But can you imagine, like, 20 of them for multiple hours?
Well, and it's like, I've been out with a few friends with their kids, and you're at, like, the dinner table, like at a restaurant, and then all of a sudden the kid just freaks out.
Kid's the center of attention.
And then there's, all 10 of us at the table, and we're all being, like, stared at for having this, like, kid, like, and it's like, what can you do? That's what but it makes
so is
me
that on
cringe.
the parents? Is that on the kid? Should the parents do a better job of raising them, or is that too harsh a statement?
I think that's too harsh of a statement.
Okay.
I think it's situational. I think, yes, but I also think sometimes you got to pick
kids
your
cry.
battle, and kids are just going to get upset and have just, freak out about the silliest things, and you can't really
Do you want kids?
Control that. Yes. And I will say, though, as a child myself, I was one of those who was screaming for no reason.
Do you remember that, or you were told that?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I was told.
You were a difficult kid.
I was a difficult child. My dad will still say that I've been in my, he can't say it anymore. Well, no, you can still say it. I've been in the terrible twos for 20 some years or whatever.
How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
30. I just turned 30. So
but still in your terrible
28,
twos.
I've been in terrible twos for 28 years. I don't think that's quite as true in this state. But going back to my whole, like, I just have some sides that some people might look that are bad. Like, I might have been that screaming kid. But now I'm more aware of my emotions, and
interesting.
As I feel like as I've gotten older, I haven't been a screaming child in a long time, but like, you just think about getting mad and stuff, or being more reactive. I feel like as I've gotten older, I'm less reactive, and it's just more of that I'm more self-aware of, okay, bite your tongue a little bit here, or recognizing that things are out of my control. That's been hard, but like, I think that all kind of.
Do you suffer from road rage?
Not really. There are, I'm not as bad as some people.
That's like, in my mind, some people, that's a culmination of reactive, biting your tongue, getting angry. Like, I don't know. It just came to my mind.
I think.
It's good it doesn't affect you.
So I actually think, because I've got a good friend, nicest person in the world, do anything for anyone, always like inviting people over, just whatever. But you get in the car with him, and he is.
Why do you think, really?
And I think it's just like built up, and it's just like, it's like a punching bag.
That's how he lets it out.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's healthy. That's really healthy.
Gets real mad. But there are some things that I get frustrated when driving, and I'm like, but it's one of those things. It's like when you're a pedestrian, you get mad at drivers, and when you're a driver, you get mad at pedestrians.
I know.
I'm like that too. And like driving, like I get mad at someone for doing it, but then I'm like, well, I probably would have done it too if I was
Or
in a-
I just did it yesterday, you know? Yeah,
Yes.
it's easy to point the
Yeah,
finger.
because I remember something about you that you tend to be bad about when you're driving.
Me? Not seeing other people? Or what am I
No,
bad at?
you your phone might be out
Oh,
more
jeez.
than
She's lying. It drives itself. Okay, well.
it drives itself. Does it actually?
It's one of the, it keeps it in between the lines, and if it turns and it'll follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's almost like, is it better that our cars do that or worse?
So when you have car insurance, and I'll just expose myself because it's not fair for me to expose other people and then not be able to like take it and receive it. So I am bad about using my phone while I'm driving. Sometimes FBI, not all the time, but I need to get better at that. Thank you for pointing that one out. When you have car insurance, I think typically your insurance goes down and it costs less if your car drives itself because they think it's safer.
Okay. So
and
that's,
like less prone to error. I don't know. So does that answer your question?
yeah, it does, but it also seems like it gives us more reason to
Do
get
other
distracted.
stuff. I know.
Yes.
Well,
I thought about that too, like with our smartwatches and things like that. I mean, you're driving and it buzzes and you just kind of like look at it real quick.
You know what I have started doing now, and because there's always areas for us to improve, but like I have started. I'm trying to like defend myself a little bit if you couldn't tell. The voice to talk, like voice to text, like
Yes.
that's a very helpful thing.
Your car probably has some fancy function
It does.
itself for it. So
Yeah, it's all built in. I mean, yeah. So I use that the majority of the
Do you
time.
ever get frustrated though? I will say when like you're trying to fix your clock, for example, on your car, and when you're driving, it won't like let you do those like functions.
Well, I don't usually. Yes.
I mean, I'm not really changing my clock while I'm driving, but there are certain things like I'm trying to connect something and it'll be
You
like,
can't do this while you're driving. It's like, what if it's my passenger? Like what?
Yes, that's my thought exactly.
It's
like
not, but
but how are they supposed to know?
they don't, and they shouldn't control our. This is America. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't control our
I
freedom.
mean, it is still your personal vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there?
Yeah. What if I was like, okay, yeah.
But yeah, you should get better about it. But yes, it is good that you have a safer car that, so if you are going to do it,
allows me to be
get
unsafe.
your little
Yeah.
maneuvers you back onto the road.
That's so funny. I have not. That's the first time I've actually been called out here on this show, and you got me. So well, that trophy is
I
yours.
was trying to be kind of discreet about it, but you're like, wait, what do I do?
Let's
I'm
keep
like,
it real. Yeah, I asked. Yeah. I could have said
mean,
like, let's avoid that.
sometimes you need your friends and family and people to remind you of your bad behaviors, right? I mean, you're like,
You do?
or listen to them, or it's good to have your peers keep you in line, accountable. That's a better word, accountable.
Accountable is a good word. Look at you turning that deep. Yeah, I mean, if I think a true friend will tell you the things you don't want to hear. If you got people who only tell you what you want to hear, then you're off becoming a bad human. And people are like, yeah, keep doing that.
Yes. Do you ever go like you see the same people all the time, or not all the time, but it's more like their significant other, someone that you kind of know through them, and then they always find something to compliment you and everyone on when as soon as they come in, like, oh,
Give me a good
I really like
example.
your shirt.
Okay.
Like you see someone,
I know
and then,
somebody
and then you
who-
hear someone, and then like someone else comes in later, like, oh, like I really like your hat. And, like it's not that it's not sincere, but sometimes to me it's like,
So I know somebody that does that, and I think it comes off as, in my mind, and I could be reading I think it comes off as insincere. It's like you kind of, if you're doing that for every single person, then you're intentionally, which is great. It's nice to compliment people, and it's nice to, but if you're like searching for something, it's almost, it feels forced.
it reminds me of Mean Girls, if you have seen Mean
Long
Girls.
time ago.
where-
Lindsay Lohan,
Yes,
yeah.
and Regina George
Yeah.
does something where she's like, oh, I love your bracelet. And then,
It's a good example.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
like later she's like, said some compliment to the other girl and then was like, oh, I hate that. So it's like, that's what I picture the person doing. It's like, oh, I love your bracelet. That was really ugly. It's like,
I don't even know how we got onto this compliment. I mean, but it's a nice thing to you should compliment people.
yes,
It should be sincere.
I also think sometimes it's not that it's not sincere, it's that it's maybe a nervous thing or like a social, like you're not as comfortable with everyone in the room, and so you just look for something to say, oh, like think about it at a networking event. I guess sometimes you bring up weird things to acknowledge people. Be like, oh, that's a really cool
Gives you something to talk
name
about.
tag you got on there. And
Yeah.
then like you start chatting.
Good icebreaker
But
in a way.
I guess though at the same time you wouldn't be doing that to like every person you meet. Then it just seems like you're try hard maybe.
It's like, dude, chill out a
Yeah.
little bit, you know? Like,
Yeah.
let's just be real for a second, please.
But I mean, it can be intimidating going in front of people you don't like. Networking event being an example.
Yeah, and you do a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
Was
yeah.
was that hard for you at first? No.
No, I mean, what I found about myself is that I don't. The small talk is hard for me. That drains me. So I'm a very outgoing person. I will talk to anyone really. But it's just the same conversations. I'm like, oh, what do you do? How do you do that? Oh, that's cool. Or like, oh yeah, the weather's nice. Or like my neighbor next door, I always talk to him about the weather because what else? I mean,
That's what neighbors do.
it's like I'm coming
yeah.
out to check on my plants, and he's there watching his TV. And
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
why I have a privacy
it's
fence.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm in an apartment, so our balconies
Tough. Yeah.
match up. We have a nice little fence, but anyways, what were we? How did we?
Nervousness, small talk.
Yeah, so for me, networking, I would say it's definitely like something I've gotten more used to. Initiating a conversation is more hard for me. It's not that I'm like, I just, especially, like you'll go and there'll be like a group of people, and you'll hear like a networking etiquette. It's to never close the circle, always have it open so it can like
Forgot
leave it
about
open.
that, yeah.
But you don't think about it, and you don't want to have, one person here talking across the room. If it's like 3 of y'all or 4 of y'all, you just kind of naturally
Form a circle. Yeah. Well, maybe you don't stand so tight. You give people space to. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but you're kind of supposed to, or at least, and like again, there's always gonna be people who are like, oh, here, come join us or talk to us, but like, there's not always a person in that particular group. So
you know what I'll do sometimes is in networking events or social events or whatever, and you always end up standing and talking with people in somewhat of a circle, and I'm the guy who will see somebody off standing by themselves or somebody I kind of know, and I'll say, hey, like I'll somehow end up bringing them over, come and talk with us, and like they come over and they're just really awkward. It's like, man, I really wish I hadn't have done that.
Yeah, and then you're stuck with them too, and they're like kind of attached to you at the hip, or and I found too like at the beginning of a networking event, if you're there early, which can be a good thing, but then it's also like you're there early with one other person or 2 other people, and so you start talking to them,
Yeah.
and then it's awkward, and then there's no other people to talk to, and that small talk keeps like cycling, and then you're like looking for
Well, how about the weather yesterday? Yeah.
Or I've had it too, or like he just found me immediately and then just never branched off to someone else, and then like, and there's some I feel like everyone knows him, but you might not.
I do not know the name.
He's just a big networker is why people
Yeah.
will know him,
Okay.
but he's kind of got a good etiquette about it, and he's very good about.
I thought you were gonna bash the guy.
No,
I was
no,
like,
no.
Let's maybe not do that.
No, he's got a. I mean, I maybe shouldn't have called him out, but
It's all good.
I think everyone. I mean, he's real big on
Infamy,
LinkedIn. Everyone
or,
knows him for that, but
Advertising.
he's really good at networking. Like he just times it right with each person, and will say something, and then like politely like finds a way to like leave
Yeah.
the room, which just sometimes it's just hard to find that. How do you leave this
Well, it's
conversation?
interesting, and I don't know if this isn't like the proper term. What?
No, I'm just laughing like I was gonna just say something.
Say it.
No. Your thought that I was gonna say something bad about him.
Oh yeah, just waiting for it. Man, Emma's really ripping into people today. Starting
On
with
myself
herself.
too. Yeah.
So no, and that's what I'll do. Like when I'll host events for real estate, I don't spend. You can't, and you got a room or an event full of clients and friends and family. You can't spend all your time with one person, and because then you're neglecting everybody else. And so this isn't like the proper term for it, but like kind of like you got to be the mayor. You got to go around and say, hey, how are you doing? Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. And like, okay, well, look, I'd love to catch up with you. You got to float. You got to float from one to the next, which it sounds
Yes.
like this guy is doing.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's very good
yeah.
at that. And I think it's easier, too, if you're the mayor or the host of the event, too, because everyone knows you.
Yeah.
Or if you go somewhere where you know everyone, too, it's a lot easier. I feel like it's when you don't know anyone at the events that you get stuck.
Yeah, it's hard to float to a bunch of people you don't
Yes.
know, and that's fair.
And if you get stuck with that one person, I feel like there's a word for it when someone, like, kind of glues to you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear that.
Yeah, it's not coming to me right now.
Well, so take the topic of deep conversations and small talk, and I have a very as well. I have a hard time with small talk, and I hate it actually, and I'm getting worse and worse at it. Like I can force it and I can do it and I can hold my own, but I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And so I have a harder time doing it. And like I've even got a group of friends that I've known for a really long time. So like I'm on a personal journey within my life, and that journey's just taking me in that direction, wherever that is. And then I feel like the further I go on that path, it's harder to have things in common with the people that I've been friends with over here. And so like even the conversation, like when I want to talk about deep things, and I want to I want to not do the small talk.
Yeah.
And so I'm having a hard time communicating with some of these people because we don't talk about the deep things.
Yeah, interesting.
And I mean, I actually it's sad in its own way. It's kind of like pruning sometimes, and you actually may be able to relate to this, but when you want to take care of a plant and you want it to grow, you have to cut off some of its limbs and prune it.
Yes.
You know, and so it may be painful for the plant because they're still somewhat alive, but by cutting those parts off, you actually help the plant grow.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, I always tell people, especially basil being a great example, it gets really long and leggy and it loses its flavor, and you have to cut it back. I mean, it needs a haircut.
The parts that you're cutting, are they still alive?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Prime example.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's that sad thing because, like, I mean, on a weekly basis, I cut my herbs, and then I like end up starting a lot of new plants because then I don't want to throw them away. But sometimes you just have to. But that's beside the point. But it's for it to be healthy and bushy and green and flavorful. While it is growing, it needs to be cut back.
Pruned. Yeah.
So I mean, I get that, and I think too. I mean, having to cut out. You don't necessarily have to think about like cutting out people, just maybe not spending all of your time with or not prioritizing, but you know, just certain occasions hanging out with these people and certain occasions doing it with these people.
Well, that's an interesting point. So you don't have to like become strangers, but maybe instead of like 24/7, maybe it's let's go grab a coffee and catch up, you know, which is kind of what adults do anyways, isn't it?
Yes. Instead of like if you're avoiding, you're over the Friday, Saturday late night thing, and that's when people tend, it's not even late night, it's like dinner time, 4:00 and
that's late for me.
You know,
yeah.
like they're 4:00.
Well, I'd like to be winding down.
No, I hear you, especially on a Friday night, like getting off work. I used, back in the day, it was like, all right, you got off to go out on Friday. Now I'm like, actually, and that happened pretty early on after like starting a job, like a 9-to-5 job.
Changes things.
It definitely changes things, and it's just hard. And you just the lack of sleep, and you don't eat right, and it just throws your whole routine off. And so I mean, like, I don't know. So if you've got like friends that like finding certain activities that you can still do with those people.
Have in common.
But it's also, I mean, it's not bad to just, I mean, you think about it, like your friends that have had kids, I mean, you see a lot less of them, don't you?
Of course. Yeah.
Just life happens. People.
Well, and I don't know if outgrow each other. People change, and situations change. And you maybe, and holding on to something from the past isn't necessarily healthy, and it doesn't have to be like you're cutting them off. It's more of you're growing, and life is changing.
Yeah, and I'll just say it's a family member who he is really like, I was thinking about this the other day. He holds grudges.
Okay.
So he'll
healthy.
No,
not healthy at all. I'm totally being sarcastic.
But it's so he'll have friends that he's not friends with, and then like a year or two will pass, and then the grudge gets a little bit less, and then they have a talk, and then they end up being friends again. But he's got a couple of friends that he's just cycled through and I think it's because they're the people he associates with, they're all hotheads per se, and they all just
Interesting.
kind of get into the room.
Birds
and
of a
start,
feather.
And then they burn bridges a little bit and then so they have like a falling out, and my family member will blatantly be like, "Yeah, he's dead to me," and then 2 years later go by, and then
We're friends
things
again.
change. I mean, it's like life changes. You grow. So.
Do you have are you talking about yourself?
No, I'm not talking about
I'm
myself,
joking.
actually.
I'm joking. Totally
I'm not.
joking.
I don't hold grudges. I don't. Actually, I don't say I hold grudges. I don't really get into big fights or argue or there's not things that push me off from people. But if someone were to do me wrong, then we'd be done. And
Well, that's fair.
yeah. But no, I'm not. It's someone above me.
I understand. Okay. All right. Well, I don't need to know.
I don't think he'd actually even care. You made me feel second guess when I gave.
Oh man.
Did she move? That
She
was not
did.
me.
Yeah. No, you're good. Come on. We can
Okay.
Yeah, lady. That's why you don't belong here. This isn't your home. This is your home. Go away. I don't want you here. I love you, but I don't want you here.
I don't think she understands that.
No.
How old is lady?
She's 7.
7.
Yeah.
Oh, you are. Yeah.
I got her. She needs a bath. I can smell her from here. Jeez.
Especially, it's like the outside smell. If they're outside for a while,
Yeah.
they just get this
Yeah. Gross. This dog.
Yeah.
She's
It's
a.
just-
Hey, go away. Hey, lady. Go away, okay? No. I got her at an animal shelter in Texas. I was going to college in Texas. First time I was living on my own outside of the Army. Can't have a dog in the Army. Can't do a lot of stuff in the Army.
Yeah.
But so I was living in Texas, living on my own after the Army, and first chance I got to get a dog, I jumped right on top of it, and so here she is.
Yeah. 7 years later.
Yeah, she's been all over with me. So from Texas back to Virginia, back and forth a bunch of times, traveling to and from home. I took her to Germany with me, and
Really?
flew her there and back on the airplane. Actually, loopholes got her. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because I thought there was some restrictions about bringing your pets when you typically travel.
Well, and when
abroad.
there probably are, and usually when you're bringing your pet on travel, they have to go underneath the plane, and
Right,
Lord
right.
knows I'm not putting my dog underneath the plane, and so I jumped through loopholes and got her registered as an emotional support animal, and so it's a funny story. So I brought her on the plane with me through the airport, through security. Actually, we got fast tracked through security because of her.
Yeah.
But she was on the plane right next to me, and they actually ended up giving her 2 seats and me 1. So she was a little bit more comfortable than I was. She's been through a lot with me.
Yeah, nice. My dog, I don't know what it was. I mean, he would get into the car and lay down as a puppy. I mean, I picked him up, put him in the car. He had no issue. And then at some point, he just got really terrified of the car. And
Interesting.
It's a struggle to get him. And so I keep thinking about it because I went to Hawaii. When he was, I don't know, maybe 8 months old. And I went to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And I was really missing him. I was like, next time I go, I'm going to definitely bring him. Like, next time I go anywhere for a long time, I'm taking him. But
2 weeks is a long time.
it is. But it's, but because he cannot travel, that would be very impractical. I just can't imagine putting him on an airplane and just he gets in the car and just shakes and won't sit down. I'm like, you understand if you just lay down, you'd relax. I think ultimately what if I had something stacked up so he's laying down and he can look straight out the window, he would like that. But it's something about seeing out the window, he makes him feel better.
Interesting.
It's
Better.
sad though. Yes, it is.
I wonder, but nothing happened that you know of that would have caused that.
There was one time I remember I did have him in the front seat, and I kind of had to slam on my brakes a little bit, and so he got a little tossed into the
car
floor.
leg area. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, I don't think that would have scared him too much. And
that might do it.
I will also say that I think he was also in the car with family members driving around. I feel like my mom's a jerky driver, and it's like
jerky driver.
She might have been the one to
well, it might have
ruined
been
him.
both of those.
I won't tell her
things.
that, but but yeah, no, it's sad. But that's cool that Lady's been able to.
Yeah, well,
Go all
for
over.
whatever it's worth, she can travel. She's great at it. She loves it, and I'm never gonna do that again. So it's too much work and effort.
I'm
And
sure, but like, at least
anxiety.
like me, like my grandparents live in Southwest Virginia, and so to get him, if I'm going to my grandparents for the weekend, like I gotta drug him up. And
Yeah, really.
it's just the whole thing.
Like fentanyl or
No, actually, though, it is. It's like a dose of some sedative
okay.
and then a painkiller. Whatever
Really?
that combination.
He's gonna be flying. He's gonna be
Oh
smooth
yeah, he's.
sailing.
I mean, and it's funny, like getting out, like he's just out for the whole day and just real sleepy and.
It's a lot more manageable.
Yes.
So if you could choose one deep conversation to have, or like when I'm with my friends and all we do is small talk, there's just one thing that I want to talk about, and that may be partially my problem, that I need to diversify what I talk about a little bit. But like, do you have a favorite? Where does your mind go when you're going for deep conversations?
That's a good question.
Aliens?
I feel like, especially with my group of friends, when we do get into it, it's not aliens, but just kind of in like the works of life and the weird. I mean, definitely like kind of those questions, like the mysteries of life.
The works of life.
Like my group of friends, their deep conversations are off the wall kind of things, or like going into. I remember one time them talking about, not that this is an absurd thing, but owning a bar, but kind of joking about it. But then like just in that moment, going to each like step of what they would do.
They broke it down.
And, like, yes, and it's just like got into the weeds in that very moment. I don't think since I've ever talked about it again, but it is, and they just kind of like one time. I mean, we went talking about joining. Crap, what is it called? It's the club. It's a club you join. They're all over. The Wolf. Moose Lodge.
Oh, Moose Lodge. Isn't that like a military thing or?
I don't really know what started it, but it's a private club.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And they're all over the place. I think like a lot of motorcycles.
We can drink for dirt cheap there.
Yes, and I think you can actually bring your own bottle, and then like they'll serve it. Dinner's real cheap, like private events. Like it's just like I don't know. Yeah. And so we went into this whole thing about, and then taking it over and like basically, yeah. They get just those conversations get very weird, I would say.
Nothing wrong with weird.
No, and I'm like, I'm not too much of a vulnerable, get into the deep weeds of who you are and all that stuff, but it definitely happens, and I'm just trying to think of like a good example of what
it would be. Well, so like in deep weeds, who you are, like, and so you're in a relationship, you got a significant other. Do you have a friend to go to when you need to talk about stuff, or like if you're having a tough time, if you're going argument or disagreement, whatever it may be, do you have somebody to talk to about that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody needs that.
Yes, and I don't know if everyone
has that
or
not.
does take advantage of it, I'd say. Like I said, like it's definitely like for me, I've had to make myself be like, okay, I really need to just talk about this with someone instead of keeping it in, and you do. As soon as you talk about like
you feel
stuff
so much better.
Yes. Just getting out of things, I don't know, just like weird.
Well, we're not meant to bottle stuff up, I don't think.
Yeah.
Are you a bottler?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I just don't. Again, I think it's like goes back to having myself put together. I don't necessarily want to put my problems on other people.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly do. I mean, like my parents and close ones, I will call and be like, I'm so indecisive about things, and like just in a panicking over something silly with people I'm close, but for the most part, no, it doesn't. Like, just completely lost my train of thought.
Well,
it's because I'm using too much of my brain to think about getting into deep conversations.
Using too much.
What is your one topic that you?
Well, If you had to take a guess, what would you say
It'd be God.
It would be, yeah. And like that's a very broad. That could be many different things, but like, and that creation of the universe. Where did that start? Moral law, like the widespread. Every human has this feeling of right and wrong. Where did that come from? What does heaven look like? I mean, God would be maybe religion. Yeah, so all of that is my deep stuff. I like the thought of aliens too.
Yes, I my granddad actually is a believer that like that we're aliens in a way.
Foreign,
that, like they
interesting.
like they came years ago, like Egyptians. That's how all the pyramids are built. Is that aliens came and basically. Yeah. So my granddad was a believer in that kind of thing, but it was also, went to church every Sunday.
That's what I was going to ask.
So believed in God very much too, but yes, had some weird kind of like
spin-offs or theories.
Yeah,
theories, I guess.
And I think you could argue ways like that and still believe in God too, and have weird. It's not necessarily black and white.
I agree with that totally.
So
let me
like evolution. That gets me, not gets me, but like goes way above my head. But it is. There are some strong Christians that don't believe that in evolution, but it's like, how can you not believe in evolution?
It's like proven that it's a thing, isn't it?
Yes, but did we come from monkeys?
So I don't know. I'm by no means an expert on any of this stuff, and so like
Me
a lot
neither.
of what I'm about to say could be like so wrong, and I'm open to hearing that. But I think the idea of evolution is something evolves because it needs to survive, and so in order for something, so like whatever you got over here, it can't. It has to evolve and change in order to be able to survive, and so if we are here and evolved from monkeys, that would mean that monkeys can't still be here because we would have had to evolve from them in order to survive, but yet they're still surviving. Does that line of thought?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Line of thought.
That makes sense. And I have you done your DNA test by any chance?
Heck no. I was actually. It's funny. My parents gave me a kit for
Same.
Christmas, and I was gonna do it, and I was telling my friends like, "Hey, I got this kit," like, and they were like, "Dude, burn it!" Like you're giving the government everything they need to clone you. I don't know. Like that's your.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't, so I burnt it. I literally burnt it in my fire pit in the backyard.
Did you tell your parents that?
Sorry, Mom and Dad.
Did they do
told
it?
Told them they did do it. Yes.
So that was, and I did it too. And the thought crossed, but whatever. But
yeah.
It's not like they put a chip in me.
I was in the military.
Saliva.
Like they've got what they need from me, So I don't.
Right. They but now where was I getting back? Do this a lot.
DNA. Say it again.
I said I do this a lot where I'm just like, it's
you
my chaos.
Are you? I'm team ADHD. Are you on team ADHD?
I don't know if I am. I've never been, officially on the team, but my dad actually just got diagnosed a couple of years.
No way, with ADHD.
Yeah, and
yes,
ever
another
since
team
then,
member.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure.
We get that stuff sometimes from our parents. Like it can come from our parents.
Yeah, I just see a lot of similarities in things. Like he'll start a project, or like we start like a little project, just like finishing something, and then like you go and get a tool for that project, and then you see something else, and then you start working on that project,
yeah.
and then you're like, oh shit, I need to get back
Squirrel.
to yes, shiny object syndrome is what he calls it, which makes sense. It's like, oh yeah. But so what were we evolution. The ancestry thing. Okay. So so 23andMe, at least, I don't know if the other ones do, but it has your Neanderthalism. I don't know if that's the right word.
It sounds good. Sounds
it's
right.
like so now there's been a lot of new studies about, and I'm not an expert and I don't know, I haven't looked into it all. I just know that, even like 10 years ago, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were two different things, never whatever interacted, but there's been a lot of, basically that they interbred.
Interesting.
There's a lot more studies.
They're learning a lot about that stuff.
And I think it's because of the DNA stuff. It's
I
helping
see.
them. And it's funny, like my mom did it years ago, and when she first did it, I mean, we're pretty European, you're Western, you know, Irish, Scotland, a little
I
bit
guess
of
it's Western
England,
Europe, isn't it?
Western
Yeah.
Europe, yeah. I mean, there's nothing too crazy in us. But it's so Irish. She was, I think, like that was her top one, and the percent was higher. And over the years, the percent has changed, and I don't even know. Like she might have something that's she's more of, and it's because the more data
And
stuff
science,
they
and
do,
well, exactly, yeah, that's
it-
interesting.
yeah, so it changes, and
Huh.
it's actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And like my mom has 90% more Neanderthal in her than the population of
90% more
more of this.
Neanderthal. Does
So
she
if
have like
you-
a big forehead? That's a bad joke. I'm
No.
just joking.
I was like, I'm trying to think. So that being said, like everyone has like a less than a percent or something in them, and then she has like point. She's got a little like the data is really screwed, but it's still like she's just
Still more.
more. Yeah.
Well,
so
and
it's just like and like that's been fascinating. It talks about like some of the traits. It's like if you're bad at directions, like that's a Neanderthal trait.
Well, and so like that's really.
Or like things like you're
I'm really bad at directions.
hangry. Apparently, like hangry is another one.
Huh.
But we used to think that they were big, just dumb, not intelligent beings, and there's been studies or more research on it that shows that they were not as dumb and useless as we once thought of them as.
Which is really, really cool. And so actually that's an interesting line of thought, and I actually have never thought about it. But so like, and my deep topic is God, religion, our origin. And so like, let's say you believe the Bible and you got Adam and Eve, and then all humans kind of derived from there. And then actually you got, and I'm going somewhere with this, but then you got the flood, and Noah and his family were the only ones who survived. So then really modern humans all came from Noah and his family. But so
Point.
you don't go, which is actually, okay, now I'm connecting the dots. So, but I wonder if Neanderthals, was that all long before? I don't know how Neanderthal, because they were real.
See, that's where I get a little lost in evolution
Yeah.
and religion.
Interesting. Like, because Neanderthals were real, and like other Homo sapiens or Homo, like there was different subsets.
Right,
I don't know the
right.
proper terminology.
And isn't that what it was? That so when when these subsets of
Subspecies, I don't know the word for it.
Of sapiens, there was also this line of like Neanderthals, I think.
I think you're right.
Or they started at some point, and then basically it's like we bred
to
them
look this up.
out.
Well,
Or
and
they
it's
became
kind of survival of the
distinct.
fittest, I guess.
Yeah.
Or for whatever reason, like this. That's actually really
Yeah.
interesting.
You know, and another thing that has like kind of fascinated me, like we talk about genetically modifying stuff, and like talk about dogs. Like I mean, they were once wolves that we as humans bred down and domesticated.
Hold on. What's the plural? Say that again. They were once what?
What did I say?
Let's say it again.
Well, I must have made.
It's funny just because I think it sounded like you said woofs. And
I
mean,
probably
like,
did wolves.
Wolves.
It's wolf. Wolves. With an F, like I'm saying it like wolves. Wolves.
Don't knock the camera,
I
lady.
say I have a lot of words. I actually found out at like 25 that contribute.
Hold on. What contribute?
Contribute. So you could say contribute,
Oh, contribute.
right?
Yeah. Contribute. What do you?
Con-
Am I messing you up?
contribute. I used to say contribute.
Contribute.
It's contribution
Yeah.
and
but-
contribute.
okay.
Contribute.
Woofs.
So I say all. Yeah. Okay. Call me out on my.
I'm
speech.
sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry. It's
what
funny.
are you doing? But some like cows are animals that we made and domesticated.
Really?
From
Hey, lady.
buffalo, like Cape buffalo.
Is that
like,
so?
Like real. That's what like an. Oh well, no.
Hey, no more. You're done. Can you go lay down? Go over there, and lay down.
I know, you're a good girl. Why'd you come over here?
Good girl. Thank you, Emma. Well played. Very well played.
I got you.
Sorry for calling you out.
No, it's okay.
Friends keep each other in line.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That's just me not being, I did go to tech and I do have a degree, but I have never told anyone that I'm smart by any means. But no. But like, yeah, we've domesticated a lot of our animals, and it's just kind of the cow was not in the Bible.
You know what's interesting about that? And I didn't realize that. So it wasn't like one of the. Hey.
And maybe, I don't know the exact timeline of when cattle became a.
But so take dogs, and like we have domesticated them. They used to be wolves, and we domesticated them and turned them into something. But if dogs were in society, like if she were dropped into the world, nature, amongst other wolves, she would probably get obliterated, But so we've bred, but because we are there to protect them and give them homes and whatnot, they're able to survive. And that's just an interesting line of thought, actually.
Yeah, it is. And it too, and that's what, because gotten into this deep conversation before about, so back in the days of hunting for your food and whatnot, where wolves are pack animals, and
our pack animals? Oh yeah, sorry.
Our pack animals. Yep. Wolves are.
I'm with you. That was me not hearing properly. You're
no,
good.
Now I'm
You're
just
good.
concerned I'm saying it wrong.
No,
now.
I'm sorry.
They're pack animals, and so I guess humans and wolves learn to hunt together.
Okay.
And then that's where that bond and relationship kind of came, and it's because humans are pack animals too.
Yeah. We're not solitary beings.
Right. We need people. We don't necessarily have the hierarchy that, like, they've got a
alpha.
Yeah.
Don't we have that?
We kind of do. You do, but you also don't typically have a. Well, yeah, but yes. I know we're talking about dogs and wolves.
I want to know where Neanderthals fall into the line from between Adam and Eve and how we are right now.
There is something called.
Lady.
And I actually think my dad has been the one that's talked to me about a lot of stuff, and he's, unlike me, very smart, and watches a lot of.
Hey, no more. Come here. Sorry.
No, you're okay.
What does he do?
They're called. It's a TV. It's it's a history show called The Great American Classics. I don't know. It's on demand. But yes, and so you can find like these categories or whatever, and then just watch these films. And so one was about how wolves have turned into dogs, and how there's been this relationship that humans and what is there? Not like a feline, like a canine. Is it what canine? Whatever.
Dogs are canines, aren't they?
Yeah, and so cat's a feline, right? So like just the bond that we've had, and because we are similar, and then there's been no other animal that we've been able to
domesticate
like that. Like even a cat. A cat, they don't.
You can only get but so far. You can't like. Sure, you got probably have exceptions, but cats are known to not. They do their own thing.
They don't need a pack. They don't need. Yes, like you said, there's exceptions. But they're more independent. They don't have that bond like a dog does. Where your dog will. Some cats will follow you everywhere, but your dog has.
That dog needs companionship, but a cat could be very self-sufficient.
She needs you.
Yeah.
Where, cats are just not like that. So it's really interesting how we've
kind of bred that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then now we've got, all the cute little different types of dogs.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. Some are good, but then you got stuff like pugs where they you've bred into that dog, and they're cute, they're adorable, but they also have breathing problems.
Even French bulldogs have a lot of hip and back problems, and I think sometimes getting a dog that's been full bred, they're more prone to have those,
which is great.
Problems.
Yeah, they say mutts are like healthier. You know,
I know it does seem kind of
counterintuitive or whatever the word for it is. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned uncle, grandfather, whoever believes in that we are who?
Oh, the alien thing.
Yeah. Well, so I think alien means foreign to this planet. I won't go down that path, but what I'm curious about is the pyramids. How do you think those were formed?
I haven't thought too much about it, and what I think is that I listened to his perspective, and I'm like, and I've heard, there's no real how to they have the math and technology that we did, but I think they have actually since again come out with
Like how they did it?
how it was all possible.
Was it with pulleys and humans and slaves, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the expert on it,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think so. And I think, I mean, I think just the work ethic and just how it was, and maybe the work ethic might be strong. I don't know if it was maybe slavery and forced work.
Yeah, slave
but I
labor.
think there is actually, I don't know, something with the science behind how they were able to get it done, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if I can believe it, and I don't know about it. And I'll tell you though, Egypt has been one place that I really would like to go to, and see those pyramids. I really want to go.
Sphinxes.
Because it is all fascinating to me. I like Greek mythology. That's not the same as Egypt, but just like all that kind of interesting, like pharaohs and like they believe like cats were. I don't know. It is just
mummification, and I mean it's so different.
And just all those like structures, like you think about. I mean, those things were big. I mean, why did they do that? And the Sphinx, like, I mean, carving, that's probably even took more talent and skill to like carve all that. Like,
why is a good question. Well, and they probably took generation upon generation to build. So I mean, maybe what you had, and I'm actually really speculating, but so like take pharaohs. I wonder if pharaoh ship was like passed down a family line, because like if you have one pharaoh, you're not going to see the end of that pyramid. You're never going to see that pyramid get built in your lifetime. To my knowledge, I think.
And so what, you're doing it for your children, and I don't.
Yeah. So the question is, why did they do that? Yeah. But now, weren't they tombs? Weren't pyramids tombs?
Yes, I think so. But what? So is there like and don't even know what's all inside of or like, I feel like there's mazes and things.
That'd be really cool if they were undiscovered tombs.
I guess that's what I think that they are. Well, I don't.
Yeah.
And
how cool would that be?
We've been out of elementary school now for 25 years. So what I recall from those days when you talk about, you had 2 weeks and.
Well, it probably doesn't apply anymore,
Stuff's changed.
1 foot in the grave.
But, I mean, it's definitely multiple grave sites within them.
And 4, I think the royalty. So it's like, hey, look, when you're gonna mummify me, and now I want to be ultimately put inside of this massive, massive tomb for glorification, whatever the purposes is. So I mean, maybe that's the why. I don't know. Maybe because they could.
Yeah. Because
Egyptians, man, different beast.
Power. Yes.
How was the Earth formed?
I mean, I don't know exactly how it was formed. I think God created it, and I mean, was it truly 7 days in our time, or was it in a, I mean, because people before in BC, people lived longer too. How do you explain that?
Like hundreds and hundreds of years, yeah.
And is it just
so maybe 1 day back then was a month? I mean, who knows? Who knows how it trained? I see what you're saying.
Right. So I guess it's kind of relative, but it just kind of had to have,
like the Big Bang?
Yeah, like I'm not against that theory either, because I think that there could be 100% science behind what
there has to be science
something
behind
there,
it.
like an atom, right?
Yeah.
We're all made of
atoms,
right? Are we?
Yeah, I think so. You're making me feel dumber and dumber.
I know. I'm trying to remember chemistry class.
Well, I think so. I go to a church, and they explain, like, science. People often fall into the thought that you cannot have science and religion together, that they work against each other. But in fact, they're actually intended to complement each other and to work together. And I think the way they would say it, I'm probably going to butcher it, but the science explains how things happened, and like the science behind it and the molecules. I'm not smart enough to say, but it explains. And then the religion explains why it happened. Why is the earth here? Why are we here? Why do we have this moral compass within us? Because science can't explain any of those questions.
Yeah.
And so you kind of need both to have the full picture.
Yeah, I think that makes complete sense. And this is a fiction example, but like in Game of Thrones, you watch Game of Thrones,
Of course.
So, and I'm forgetting what they're called, but like, what are the they're not like the priests, but the people that work with the books and they do this.
Not a scribe.
No, what was he called?
In the movie?
They
Or
wear
in
like
the
brown
show?
robes. I mean, they look like monks, but they're not monks. But then they would do like scientific stuff. They were also the doctor.
Yeah,
But
and they made that green fiery stuff for Cersei.
Yes, that guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was a.
Not an alchemist. Man, it's on the tip of my tongue. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yes. It's,
That guy.
That's kind of what you're saying. I mean, that's a different religion made up thing. It wasn't like they believe in one God,
Yeah.
but it was. I mean, they were the doctor and scientist as
Yeah.
well as had that religious.
Okay, well,
side to it.
I would
So-
not have made that connection, but fair.
That's where my head went to. But no, I think that actually makes a lot
interesting.
of sense of what you said about the science is why, and you have to have both. It's not wrong.
Yeah, and they don't fight against each other.
And I don't know what other theory there is besides the Big Bang theory. I mean, like the scientific. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know enough about it either. I think the Big Bang Theory is one of how and some people would say that it was always just here, which I have a hard time understanding that.
yeah.
There's something called like the multiverse theory, which I don't know much about. I know.
There's a lot of like superhero movies that go into multiverse, and
Good point.
I don't understand that. So if we put it into real life,
Yeah,
that'd
it's
be-
even harder to understand. I think that there's a guy on YouTube, and I ended up talking about him a lot. But he's PhD, and I think he's a big theologian, and his name Frank Turek, and he talks a lot about the Bible, its history, religion, and I think a lot of even scholarly atheists are for the Big Bang. Like, it did kind of come out of nothing. There's actually evidence out there to suggest that it did do that, and I can't rattle off that list, but it's almost like the most logical. I mean, you can't. What we have now is space, time, and matter, and you can't have space, time, and matter creating space, time, and matter. There has to be something outside of space, time, and matter. So for there to be space, time, and matter, there has to be something outside of it creating that. And so and then there's a Big Bang, and now there's space, time, and matter.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of scientific evidence, like the speed at which the universe is expanding. There's evidence to suggest it's always been at that speed. It started at that speed. Instead of like picking up pace or slowing down. It's like I'm not smart enough to dig into it, but I think there's a lot of evidence to support the Big Bang theory.
Which is also just crazy that we can come up with evidence to support really anything like that. But
The laws of logic.
yeah. Yes.
Humans have become extremely advanced in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that either. I mean, having, doctors that can save lives and technology that can save lives, and
Not a bad thing.
no, and I mean I think it's like our free will, and that we can come.
We
up
know
with
it's interesting, and
technology.
I'm going to continue bringing God into it, and so like the discoveries that humans are making right now, like I don't know if it was a book that explained it this way. I don't think it was the Bible itself, but there are plants out there that have, like, if you look at it, it's like, oh, there's a pretty plant. But then when society progresses far enough and you're able to do science, then you learn that actually that plant has a lot of medicinal properties. And so it's not just as a pretty plant, but there's actually like underlying uses for this thing. So society and mankind God intended, he created that plant, and he created that underlying use for that plant. And so he wanted mankind and society to progress, and he even left us secrets and things to find and discover. So he wanted all of that for us. Now what we do with those things can be good or bad. I don't think things that save lives and help people is bad by any means.
No. Yeah, like, because isn't there's some, like, I want to say Jehovah's Witnesses that, and it might not be them, but they don't believe in like blood transfusions and things like that.
I don't know.
It's, and it might not be them, but there are some really strong religious beliefs that they, because it's kind of out of God's control.
It's almost like, I mean, they would probably argue we're playing God at that point.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and like I can see, I don't know if I agree with that. I can see what they're saying. Like I mean, they may say, well, we were never intended to do this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just, I mean, I can see how they believe that, but to your point of that God left all these things for us to
Be discovered and
to grow and develop and become
so we've got
stronger.
the ability to heal somebody. Why wouldn't we heal them?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like he's giving us the tools to do it. So he doesn't control our lives on a daily basis.
No, free will.
He doesn't control life and death at all. So why would he not want to give the power to his people to help other people?
Yeah. Well, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know? You're supposed to. Sorry.
Yeah.
I always.
She needs attention.
Well, we talked about before we even started this. We do a let her end, and I always regret letting her be part of. Anyways.
But you know, my dog has the worst cry that you would hear, and you just would feel so pitiful, and he'd be like, "Oh," it's like, you know, it's,
which would be even more of a distraction.
really
She wouldn't
can't-
go that far,
you
but
can't win. She's much more trained, and
she's a good dog.
my dog is good, but he's just. He's like me. He's just chaos. we thrive off of each other. So
there's nothing wrong
I
with
can't be controlled, and he can't be controlled. It's just
perfect for each other.
It's just
You're
how
just
we
getting a little
along.
taste of your own medicine.
That's what I was actually gonna say earlier about having kids, and you asked that. I was like, yes, but I know I'm destined to have horrible kids because I was just a horrible.
A taste of your own. What goes around comes
Yes,
around. Apple doesn't
yes.
fall far. So many sayings. Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this. And so, do you? I mean, so you believe in God, and is that something you practice? Is it something you? What does all of that mean to you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, growing up, I think I might have mentioned this to you before. We didn't really go to church on a regular basis. We tried, I think, as a family. Like, my parents definitely tried to get us, but both my parents worked a lot. So Sundays was kind of truly the day of rest. And the last thing they wanted to do was to drag the kids to church. So, yeah, I mean, and then my grandma has never missed a day of church in her life, and she lives in Southwest Virginia.
Like, that's a lot of grandmas, you know. That seems like
she's in the choir.
Oh man,
I
nice.
think like COVID was horrible, and she's a social butterfly, so she does a lot with the church group and couldn't meet with anyone for a while. But so on occasion when I'm in town on a Sunday, I do try to go to her church. It's actually the same church that both of my grandparents got married at, and my
Nice.
parents. So it's kind of a special church.
Yeah.
But I just kind of at one point just realized I don't necessarily, not that there's anything wrong with going to church and that I'm against it at all. It's just hasn't really fit into my schedule, and that sounds bad. I just feel like, I don't have to go to church every Sunday to be a good Christian and to talk to God. And
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah. No, you don't. I mean, I don't think there's any requirement in the Bible. Hey, you got to go to church to get into heaven. That's not a thing.
yeah. And so, I mean, it's just, I think, it's to have someone out there looking out for you and to something bigger than you that kind of keeps us all together.
Do you have to church, go to it, don't go to it, that's personal preference. Do you have a relationship with God?
Yes.
Do you what does that look like for you?
Yeah.
I mean, relationships have to be maintained, right?
Yeah, like I think we kind of talked about this earlier. I mean, I need to find more time to pray. It's kind of one of those things that I have a moment to myself that I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good time that I'm not thinking about anything else, that I should talk to God. And then I say that every time I talk to him. I'm like, I need to talk to you more. And
does it feel good to talk to him?
Yeah.
Interesting. I think that it's so when you're I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. You got God, and I'm going somewhere with this. You got God and you got water. When you're really, really thirsty, you drink water, and now you don't need any more water. But God, when you're like really, really spiritually thirsty and you go to God, it's not like, okay, I'm good. I don't need any more God. But you find you need, maybe not need, want more and more and more.
Yes. And then, yes, that's a good point, but it is also like,
it's like reverse hydrate. I don't know the best way to say it.
That's what I always say to myself. Like, I really need to pray more often. But it's but maybe it's because I don't really have the need on the.
When I think the less that we pray or the less we try to connect with him, then we crave it less. Now but then on the other hand, you take water. The less we have it, then the more you crave it.
True.
You know?
Like some people are very adamant about drinking 100 grams of water a day. Some people can get by with drinking 1 glass of water or whatever it is. So I get, that's a interesting.
I need to think of a better way to say it, but I think like the less you're seeking God, but you don't crave it as much. But the more you seek him, the more you crave him. I think, and that's just shows how good he is.
Yeah. And it seems to be more present to me in this year. Unfortunately, it's been a lot of untimely deaths, I guess. I'm
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and so that's when I feel like I really connect with him as well, and it's just one of those things because it's hard to comprehend why it happens.
Yeah.
And so this year has been more of that this year than there has been in years before, unfortunately. So
I feel like, and hopefully I'm not intending to be insensitive, but I think unfortunate events draw us closer to him. They're going to do 2 things to people, believers, they're going to push you further away from him or bring you closer, and so it sounds like it brings you closer to him.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing too, because like my mom's dad, so that grandfather, he grew up on a coal mine, and his father was killed in the mines, and that grandfather was the biggest religious person I knew, but he was not when he was 16 to 20, and he like kind of found God. But when his father died, he was like, I
really leaned into it.
No, it was the opposite.
Pulled away from it.
Yes, he pulled away and was like, I don't believe in God. That like, why would God do something like?
And
this?
that's a prime example of.
But then he had since at some point had a turning point and then became, found him and was
that's
a big
interesting
part of his life. Yeah.
I mean, it's a prime example.
Yeah.
You're
Because
gonna
how do you explain? And actually, it was my grandfather, that kind of explained it to me. That made sense. That God doesn't kill. I mean, it's out of God's control. That's just what.
I've got so many thoughts on that, and I agree with that statement. Well, and so first of all, God, if he were to kill somebody, is it murder? That's a deep question.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he wouldn't kill.
Well, you may be right. But so when we die or when somebody is killed, I mean, or let's say even if God were to do that for whatever his reasoning, we don't. Go ahead.
Nope. Finish your thought.
We don't die. We simply move from one location to the next location.
It's more so that God doesn't kill. It's more that he doesn't necessarily
stop it.
I was gonna say yes. He doesn't stop it. I was gonna say he doesn't.
I understand.
Because he just. Again, it's the free will.
We all have, and somebody can walk in through that door and choose to kill me right now. That doesn't mean God did that.
Yeah.
And then, so I love these lines of talk. So why does he allow evil? That would be if somebody were to walk in off the street and shoot me, kill me. That's evil. Why does he sit back and allow, or little kids to get trafficked? Why does he allow these things to happen?
Because he gave us free will, and I mean, you can't. It's like you can't sometimes.
You can't pick and choose.
Yeah. When he gave that to us, he gave us the freedom to choose right and wrong. And ultimately, I mean, that's what he knew Adam and Eve were going to do. I mean, he knew it was going to happen.
Kind of, but it was also, and see, when you can't create, you have to give free will. And he has to give free will. Otherwise, you don't have it. You're robots. And we're just literally robots who aren't choosing to love him. We were designed to love him. So he wants people who choose him to love him. And so you have to give that free choice. With free choice comes the ability to do evil, which a lot of humans choose, unfortunately. And so you have to have that evil. I mean, it just exists because of free choice. And so, but evil, even he can work through, and I'm going on a tangent here, but he can work through evil. And it may be evil that turns people to him, and so should kids go through the things they go to? Absolutely not. But let's say the end goal is that kid dies or is killed. That kid is not gone forever, but they're moving to a location that's going to be far better than we can ever imagine. And maybe that sinister act is what truly eats away at the heart of that person committing it, and that person turns to God, And so I think even through evil, he can work.
Yeah, it is kind of.
It's interesting.
Interesting perspective.
You didn't know where I was going with that, did you?
No, but I mean it's something to think about. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, it's kind of like, there's what's right and wrong too, I mean,
that's a good question.
It's not a straight line.
Well, what about the statement that everybody has a moral compass within them that tells us right and wrong?
I believe that, but your definition of right and wrong is different than my definition of right and wrong. Like ethics.
Well, and Hitler's definition of right and wrong was far different than Gandhi's.
And to go into that, I mean, not to to defend someone like Hitler, but in his head, whatever he
was right.
He was right. So, and he made a majority, or not a majority, but he had a following. I mean, he convinced others to believe him.
Armies,
as well.
A country, yeah.
So
I'm trying to think of like the proper way to say this, because what we're doing is we're in dangerous territory right now in a certain way. But that's a prime example. I think that like we have a compass within our heart that's what's right and wrong, and I think what Hitler did was completely ignored that, or he completely went against that, and he chose his own path and probably convinced himself that he was right and was very sick in the head.
Yeah. Go on.
No, please.
No, I was going to say, do you think, though, people like that, is it something that it is that...
A sickness?
Sickness, and it could be how they're brought up, and they're just traumatized from that, and it makes
That's a good question.
them to...
And so is it their fault?
Well, I know nothing, like Hitler, as an example. I know nothing before him. I mean, I know he fought in World War I. But other than that, I don't know much about him. Like,
Same. Likewise.
How was he raised? I mean, there must have been some sort of theology.
His family must have been in power, I would think, or
right.
affluent maybe, or, I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
It's curious. What was his upbringing?
Yeah, and so it's like, it's again, what comes first? Is it is it society or is it the individual?
Well, and so I think that's why, like, the moral standard, what's right and wrong, it's not determined by society, because then you got extreme examples like that.
Well, in other countries, I mean, too, that's right. I mean, we see it right now with what's happening in the Middle East,
Israel,
and all
Hamas,
that, and they believe very strongly in what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Which goes to show that it's not society that creates the standard of good.
And it's I guess, culture too, maybe. I mean,
yeah.
in the beauty of where we grew up is that we are, I mean, even in the worst places,
we're still far better off.
And we're more exposed than other people. And we have, I'm not saying it's easy, but we do have there is a path, if you find it, to get, where you want to be in life and to, go to school, study, do whatever. Whereas in Iran, they don't have that kind of, like, so we're not brainwashed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like Korea, South Korea, North Korea. They don't know anything. I mean, it's a brainwashed society.
It's funny you bring up North Korea. I'll give you an interesting story about that. I was stationed. That was my first duty station. So that was like 2012.
Okay.
I was in South Korea, and we were the northernmost base. So we were right next to North Korea. We were right next to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, and there was a lot of responsibility and stuff that came along with that. And so there was a duty. There's a 24-hour duty, so you had to be on duty for 24 hours. And you patrolled and watched over where all of the heavy artillery was kept. So basically this stockyard of artillery, we had to watch it for 24 hours. And so you go out every 3 hours, you make your laps, and you make sure that nothing nefarious is going on. And so I was on this duty, and I went out at like 1, 2 in the morning to go make my rounds. And I walked outside of our little building, and there was a balloon. There was a huge balloon that was sitting there outside of the door, and it was very tall and skinny balloon, and attached to the bottom of it there was like a bag of stuff. And I kind of like got close to it, looked at it, and then I went back in, told my sergeant. He called the bomb squad, and this thing was very much checked out because we had no idea what it was, and it wasn't there the last time we went out on our rounds. And so ultimately it was deemed not a bomb, but they dissected this bag, and what it contained was like CDs and letters from the people of North Korea, and so they. I think it reached their destination. North Korea floated down to South Korea. What are you saying?
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah, and so it was a bunch of letters and a bunch of CDs written and recorded from the people of North Korea, and they were asking us, the U.S. Army, to invade. They were asking us to come attack, take over, free us from where we are, and so they may be brainwashed or they may be suppressed.
Yeah, and I would think, too, technology is going to play a part in that, too. So maybe 30 years ago, I mean, they didn't have any outlets. And, like they had one channel that they can watch on TV, right? And then there's,
dang, man, can you imagine?
Things, and it was...
whatever your government Korean, wanted you to watch.
Yes, and then... But, I mean, now, with cell phones and things, and I don't know what technology that they have there, but I'm sure that people get in and they get access to it and whatnot, and so they become more aware. And I think just with the technology and social media and the more awareness that we have as a whole world, and two, probably more people being aware of North Korea and trying to get in and be helpful and
show them the light, to show them that there's more out there.
Yeah.
Lady, that's enough. I love you so much, and you're such a dog. I think North Korea, they're obviously underneath a dictatorship, and the people, based on my tiny experience with the people in North Korea, they don't like it. They want out.
Yeah.
And it'll be curious to see where they're going to be in 100 years.
Yeah.
Is this dictatorship still going to be in place in 100 years?
It's kind of surprising how long it has been in place.
Since forever, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe we tried once to... No, I guess it was successful, right? So Korea was just Korea, and then now they're
Good point, North and South. Good point.
So...
were they one at one point?
Actually, I don't know.
I don't know the history of that either.
There was the Korean War, so I know we fought for South Korea, or for the democracy.
Gotcha. Which is now... Or is it the Republic of South Korea?
I don't know, actually, if they're a democracy or if they're like they're not a dictatorship.
No, they're not a dictatorship. I think they have a democratic. I'm gonna seem so dumb.
Yeah,
after this.
I don't know, but we fought for Korea, but still that was like in the 60s or whatever, and
sure.
That's been 80 years, and that North Korea still has the power that they do.
It's crazy. Yeah. But
I don't know. I don't know the politics behind it, and I don't know if they've got like someone like China backing them too. So if we were to do something, then they got this big Russia to come after us. And
it's probably not as simple as just going in there and freeing people. Right. As glorious as that sounds. Well, and it's also like, who are we? I guess I was going to say, who are we to go in and do that? Or who is anybody? But I guess if people are suppressed and if you're doing something like that for the greater good, I guess that's a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
Who has the authority?
It's kind of like one of the, like, genocide, and that's like United Nations, or is it NATO? One of those that, like, so you can't, like, another country can't intervene on another country's affairs or whatever.
So it's like these world rules.
Right. But if there's like mass killings, then there is something that other countries can intervene.
Interesting. But maybe North Korea doesn't have, and maybe North Korea doesn't have mass killings, or
yeah, right. So they're not really,
they're walking that fine line.
Is just because they're not mass killing, aren't they dying of starvation and sickness?
That's a good question. Yeah, which is kind of like you're killing by not doing anything, And so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen? This is so dumb, but have you seen the movie The Interview with?
Yes, I've actually been thinking about that the whole time. And I was in college when that came out. And do you remember when it came out that
It was a big thing.
it didn't go into theaters because they were like
It went
all
straight to
these
Netflix
threats
or something. Yeah. Like North Korea was like, you cannot. Who are you to
Yes.
tell us what to put
right.
on the?
And then, but so it ended up being nice because then you could watch it on Netflix and
For
not have
free.
to go to, yeah.
Yeah, for
And
free,
yeah,
yeah.
right. I mean, my mom pays for that.
Yeah, free.
But yeah, my roommate and I watched it, and it's pretty funny, and
It's hilarious.
yeah, I mean, it's what like I picture how they'd go and knock the fruit stand. Like it looks like they got all this like fruit and abundance of food.
And there's like a
it's
fat little kid
cardboard.
right next to it, and it's like the one fat kid in the country.
It was a terrible movie, but so good.
It was
don't know
hilarious.
Why I liked
I
it
love
so much.
James Franco.
So another kind of stupid thing that I didn't even think was really funny at the time, but I just watched Step Brothers. Not that I just watched that movie, but
Will Ferrell.
But they did the Boats and Hose song.
I don't remember it. Okay, I don't remember it
So
that well.
I kind of forgot about it too, but they do like a little rap on one of their the dad's yacht or big sailboat, and but so they do a song and they do a music video and they show the family, and the family is like, "Is that my boat?" But so just recently, Will Ferrell and the other
Whatever,
guy,
I don't know his
you know
name.
what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
I
though?
do.
So they got up on stage with Snoop Dogg and sang that song.
Was it sweet?
Because they're like 50 something. I mean,
Yeah,
they
they're
weren't young,
up there.
I guess.
They're getting up there.
But
Yeah,
singing Boats and Hose. Like, you have to go and YouTube it afterwards.
I'll check it
'cause it's
out.
pretty
Will Ferrell,
funny.
Boats and Hose.
With Snoop Dogg. Bless you.
Fair enough. Bless you. Well, look, I usually start like wind these things down in a prayer. Do you and I want these videos to be something that go out onto the internet, and if they can help one person, then mission accomplished. And so whether it's one person think more about the human, I mean, ultimately I love to connect all things back to God. But if it raises a question in somebody's heart or makes them wonder about something, makes them think something. So, and I'm wondering if there's any advice that you can give to somebody out there, like a tough time that and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but a tough time that you've gone through in life. What got you through that tough time? Do you have a particularly tough time that sticks out to you? And like I'm gonna put myself a little bit, like I struggled for a very long time with alcohol, and I drank more than I should have, and it was just a big battle that I went through. We won't get into the full story, but it was God and Jesus who pulled me out of that. And so I don't know, am I digging too deep?
No, I don't know if this exactly puts it out there, but something that has so my aunt and uncle, they're he's like 18 years older than me. They're a lot younger than my mom. So
Okay.
I was 8 or 9, 10 when they got married. And then shortly after they got married, they got pregnant and then had unfortunately a stillbirth. And then, and this was, I mean, years ago. And then it took them probably about 10 years to even really start trying again.
Goodness.
And then once they did, they, I think, had a couple of, at least one like miscarriage and just a couple of
Gosh, they had a rough time.
things. Yes. And then right around that miscarriage time, I believe, my grandfather was sick with prostate cancer, and he passed away in February. And like that October, my cousin was born. And just, I mean, it was kind of like my pawpaw in heaven and God somehow creating new life.
Answering a
from
prayer, or that's
just
interesting.
because it was a very hard thing for the family, and their family, like my uncle and grandfather, were really close. And so when he passed away, it was, I mean, pretty hard on him. I mean that's your father, and they were best friends. And then also having the struggle with not having a baby, and then once he passes, kind of like, then this gift from God was given. So that's kind of been, I mean, that wasn't a struggle for me per se.
I hear you.
But like when someone asks like why I believe or what kind of gives me that comfort is that kind of knowing that, I mean, I think it's actually a quote in the Bible, like, this too shall pass. maybe.
Oh, I'm sure. I think that is in the Bible. I don't know the context. I'm listening.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like there's always going to be dark days, but
this too shall pass.
Something will come better, and I think you have to continue to do good and to, work on yourself. You can't just let, something terrible happen to you and then you just fall apart. Not to say that
tough times are going to be tough.
Yes, but you're going to eventually have to get out and continue on with life and finding, because I just feel like once you do, you'll find that more good things come. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that?
It does make sense. Yeah. And sure, you go through tough times, there's grief, there's sadness, and all of these things are normal reactions. But you can't live there.
Right. And I bring up that particular thing because, fortunately for me, I haven't had too many hardships in my life. Sometimes money can be tight, and I've had, people pass away, but no one super significantly, I have both my parents, my brother, everyone's super close in my life. I still am fortunate to have. So, I've made it pretty easy through high school and college and no problems.
I understand.
So I haven't had a lot of hard struggles. There's everyone has struggles.
Yes.
But something big enough that's really affected with me, and that has stuck with me for 10 years at this point, since 10 years this February my grandfather passed away. So just that, and the two, it's because my aunt said something to me. She said she was ovulating and she was gonna have to make your uncle, and she's unfortunately she was ovulating during the funeral, I think.
Okay.
This is getting,
I'm
really
so confused.
So they basically they were trying to have a baby, and their window was right when my grandfather passed away, and I'm pretty sure that seed was ignited in that, all in the same
interesting
week. And there's, I don't know, chances, but things kind of to your point of, it's terrible if a little kid gets shot, but what if that was the person's turning point,
I know. Well, and it's well, and it's funny when you were saying that, I was thinking about me saying that stuff, and that's such by no means. Obviously that's the reason I say that is because that's probably the worst thing that could possibly happen on this planet. That's why I bring it up. And yet, even though humans choose to do this terrible, terrible, evil stuff, God can somehow bring good out of that. And so I don't know.
Yeah. That's just what I mean. I think God can bring good out of everything if you kind of just let it happen. And that's, I carry my dad wrote it down for me, this too shall pass, in my wallet. I have a little post-it note.
Yeah.
Just when you're having a bad day or whatever, just knowing that this isn't what it's going to always be. Well, there are moments and I'm putting my own little narrow-minded spin on what you just said, but maybe God is up there and he loves us and he wants us to be happy and safe, and so maybe it was a situation where it's hey, look, I understand that you lost somebody here. I'm going to give you somebody. I don't know. I'm just kind of agreeing. It again. It's all just whatever. It's all relative, right? It's all whatever.
Well, there's things that happen in our lives that, if I were to tell you this story, it may mean absolutely nothing to you, but when I was there in that moment, that's a God moment. What I experienced, the way the timing worked, there's no way anybody on this planet can convince me otherwise.
Absolutely.
And so to you, that was a God moment.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yes. And it's and you never really know. And it's hard to explain, I guess, to other people.
I get it. I can understand, though.
It just happens.
Yeah. Well, and that's I've stopped believing in coincidences. I don't think that the timing of that, I don't think that was a coincidence. And I just think he's not up there pulling strings, and he's not making me perform certain actions. I've got free will, but the way that things seem to time themselves out, it just seems a little too good for coincidence.
Yeah. I guess he's got a plan for each of. He's got
He does have a plan.
So
Yeah, it's
and
hard to wrap your mind around.
it is, and it's kind of. I mean, you have to make choices, and you're always wondering what. Sometimes if you make the right choice or not.
Often.
It's hard to. I think it is just that free will. I mean, it's something too. Like as a kid, you think like you pray to God, and God's just gonna give you whatever.
Like a vending machine.
Yes, and it's like, I mean, you got to prioritize, and also it's. I mean, not that he's there to prioritize, but it's understanding because he gave us that free will that's why things happen how they happen. And
yeah. I mean, and I think
that's
probably
why,
disagrees with most of what happens down here. A lot of it, at least,
Right, and like
evil.
I don't think he can make the choices for you. Like I don't, like he.
We have choice.
So he can guide you, but you could still
say no to that. Yeah, and choose your own path. And I think his guidance. It's hard to hear sometimes. I think the closer you get to him, the easier it is to hear.
I would probably agree with that too.
Yeah.
It's back to your water analogy too. If you're
drinking
thirst.
from him, the more you thirst for him.
Yeah.
And the closer you want to be, the more you want to understand. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is all very interesting, and I mean, I hope this was somewhat insightful.
I had a good time.
Insightful and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that. Here, well, and then I'll say a prayer, and then I've actually got something potentially funny for you. But well, I host on Wednesday evenings here in this garage in this very circle. I host a small group of men to get together and to commune and to share your thoughts, your struggles, your ideas, and where you at in life, what, and just to sharpen each other's blades and to talk more about God. And so at this week's meeting group, one of the guys I put out 2 YouTube videos so far, and this week's meeting, one of the guys at the meeting said like, "Hey, when you said this in your last video, it really helped me understand X." And I was like, dude, my only goal for these videos is for it to touch and help one person, and that person then may go and then help another person, and then literally it's just like a domino effect. So there's no way for us to understand that this was perfect, and I'm really glad it happened, and we can't begin to fathom how it may or may not help somebody. All we can do is exactly what we're doing, and then let God take care of the rest.
Yeah.
I think it was good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I learned something. I feel like. I mean.
What'd you learn?
I'm
sorry, I'm calling you out.
Learning is not the right word. You get new perspectives.
You do.
Or just kind of think differently than
and
before.
Expand your mindset a little.
Yes.
Yeah, I think honestly, and I think people, we don't have enough of these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, and it's kind of a funny line too, because because you have a professional life, right, and you've got a personal life, and truthfully, they all blend together, more or less. But you do kind of put on a front, or you talk about your small talk and your professional daily basis.
You wear a certain hat during your professional day.
Yeah, and then you might sit and talk to friends about it too, or your significant other, but. It is just feel like, and who you interact with on a daily basis, or for the most part, are people that you work with, or whether they're clients, coworkers, whatever. And sometimes those people are not going to be the people that you get comfortable. And maybe that's a change in society, that we can just be more. I think it's kind of going that direction, just be more open and more understanding of different
ideas and thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you're right, and I think too often people are like, well, look, this is my thought, and I'm right, and granted, like I fall victim to that too. But what we're trying to do, you may not agree with everything I said. I may not agree with everything, but that's okay. We can still sit across from each other and have a conversation, and like be bigger and better and grow from that instead of dwindle and hate so I agree with you.
And do you think maybe we'd be a little bit happier if we worked around people that were also like us, so you could have these conversations and it was comfortable? I mean, think about it. There's a lot of times when you work for a company and you have different values, but you still go to work every day because it's a job, but you're not really. You're just there to be there.
Like a shell of a person.
Yeah, you're not really involved. You're not really enjoyed and being there. And so if you find a job and where you like kind of align with your similarities and or where you can push back on people, or
Yeah.
you're also just, I feel like you would be happier working with people just in general, being around, whether it's work, people that kind of align.
I would
which is
totally,
kind of
yeah.
opposite of what I was telling you earlier about how you shouldn't cut people out, but sometimes maybe you just
Yeah, I mean, it's so situational. I mean, would I be happier at a job? Now, my job's a little bit different, but if I was in corporate America, would I be happier in an office full of Christians? Probably, yeah, but we're not, and that's not how the word works. But that gives us, what does that do? That gives us opportunities to
Right.
grow and to learn about others and to spread the word. I mean,
right.
so
And it might even be that you have really strong family values and your company does not, but you still go to work every day
Yeah.
because you have to. But if you just think you'd be a little bit happier if you
Had a
found a
com-
company that did have the same
well, totally, yeah.
kind of things.
I can see that. Yeah, I mean, you want to be happy with where you're at.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Are you
just,
not happy with where you already said you were? Yeah.
Yeah, no. I'm not. This is
Are you projecting? Am I projecting onto you? I'm joking.
no,
I'm just-
like, no. I mean, you just talk about people like getting up and going through the groove and not really, and it's because you just when you get a job, it's easy to keep your job and you don't want to do anything, and
yeah,
sometimes being aware of
kind of punching the clock.
yeah, which is not really relevant to any of this. I think it is.
I mean, it's not. I think
your
it's not.
point is that we should be talking about stuff like this more often, and I'm like, I think society is kind of closes off from talking about it. Not,
Yeah. No, I can
like,
understand that. Yeah.
just on a daily basis having these deep conversations. And two, we also live in a world where there's this side and this side, and in some conversations you really cannot have
It's a good
a
point.
legit conversation about it.
Well, and then because everybody is offended these days, and there's so many, and you have to go out there into the world and walk on eggshells.
Yes.
And I mean, here's the thing: is like what I believe, and you could believe the complete opposite. You could say, Dane, I don't believe in God. I believe I will actually worship Satan. And what I would love to do is sit here and have a conversation with you about that and learn more and get that perspective. Like, it's going to be really hard to offend me, and you could completely oppose my beliefs,
Yeah.
and I want to learn more. But then the majority of people out there, you're going to offend them.
Yes.
And
Yes.
over like gender. I mean, I'm gonna reveal my cards a little bit, but over pronouns. Like there's so much. If you're gonna get offended, there's probably better things to get offended on.
Yeah. And I think too, it's just understanding that it's all new. All this stuff is all new for all of us. And if
True.
you're, understanding that, okay, these things can be offensive. Maybe don't take so offense to it and help people educate why you're offended.
Well, and that's why.
by
So
it,
you're walking around offended. You're just waiting to lash out at people. And it's like, well, dude,
Yeah.
I just don't if you instead of lashing out, if you tried to help me and talk calmly and kindly to me, I'd probably,
yeah, just help me, like, or if I say the wrong word, just help me understand, or
The right word.
the right word, or why that was wrong, or like, politely correct me. Don't
Yeah.
just come out and say that you're a horrible
you're a
person,
victim,
and
or yeah, well, exactly.
it's just like, no, I mean, we make mistakes, and a lot of it too. It is semantics.
I've heard. I don't know what that word means.
It's like
the
it's just-
details
it's-
within what we're saying,
yes.
the context, or
So
yeah.
it all kind of depends. I mean, like, you say something and how it was said can be
Oh, yeah.
perceived
Yeah, yeah.
completely different, but it's just like,
And not how you
even
intended
words.
it.
I mean, like, it is, words are bad words, but we made them bad words.
and
you
how
know?
we choose to use them.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
funny. I was at back when I did used to
Like how you
drink.
use. I have no idea what that means. I mean, I don't think I did a great but
Semantics sounds like a fancy word.
yes, and I can't say it right, but yeah. but-
Semantics. Say it.
Semantics.
That's perfect.
Semantics.
Yeah, you're good. Woofs.
Woofs. Like a woofs, like woofed, right?
He woofed. Woofed. Woofed.
Woofs. Wolf.
Like the sound they make.
How do you say wolves?
Wolves.
Woofs. Oh, I see. I hear the difference now. It's kind of like the roof versus roof.
Yeah. Roof. Roof.
Rough.
Roof.
I don't know.
Words are a funny thing.
See, exactly, and sometimes I think people read too much into
Yeah.
the words that are
and
said.
like, well, you
It's
get
kind of
what
like,
I'm saying.
Sticks and stones maybe break my bones, but words will never.
People are very hurt by words these days.
They are. I mean,
Yeah.
we should go back to maybe we should just start hitting each other
with sticks and stones, like the Neanderthals
like
we used to
physically
be.
hurt each other, so we're not having.
That would actually
it
be. It
feels better than your brain does, your mind does.
Yeah, well, and like then you'd have a reason to be offended. But if you're getting offended at people's words, then you're offended over. I mean, yeah, that's a whole different
That's
podcast.
true. That is you. That's crossing your personal line if you're physically
yeah,
assaulted.
and now you have a reason to be mad. But now you're mad, and I haven't even touched it. I'm just saying words, and you're mad. And granted, like I don't make many people mad anymore these days. I don't think.
Yeah, no. I try to
hear
be.
you.
And I think where we are, who we hang out with, are like they're all pretty understanding. I feel like if we live somewhere like I would not get along in somewhere like New York City right now, or not get along. I just feel like I would definitely
Going
step on someone's toes accidentally.
Walking on those eggshells, and you'd break an egg.
Yeah. So.
Well, and that's why we're not. But you're not going to hang out with somebody that is. I mean, you're not going to hang out with the person who gets pissed off at the things you say. You know? Like,
yes.
You're not going to be friends. You know?
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
It is kind of about a fit too. I mean.
Yeah.
Because some people, you can be around people, and I mean, some people can get really offensive about, really silly or just sensitive about everything. You hurt their feelings.
I'm not friends with that person.
Yes, like, oh, they didn't get invited to this thing. Now they're all butthurt.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah, I don't really associate with people like that either.
Yeah,
so.
I know. But there's people out there who are like that. They're probably friends with other people who are like that, and they probably get along perfectly. And so, I mean, you don't.
Yeah, there's a fit for someone everywhere.
Sure.
There's always your group. So.
Well, so do you two wrap things? So my idea, I've got 2 jalapenos sitting right there.
I've been wondering what they're for.
and they're cut fresh off of those plants out there, and Lady's also done too.
She's like, yes.
How do you do with hot things?
I like hot things.
Okay.
Are you gonna ask me to take a bite of it?
Let's both. Yeah. Let's eat like a good bite and just see. You want to? I mean, let's just do it for fun. Well, let's say the prayer first.
Okay.
Because I don't know how that's gonna go.
Say it before we eat the.
Yeah, before I get all really red in the face. Do you want to say it or do you want me to?
You should say it.
Okay. If you ever come back, would you then at that time be the one to say it? Can we alternate? And you can never come back if you choose. I mean, this is free will.
Yeah, I mean, I would be open to it. Yeah.
Okay.
I just never said a prayer out loud. I don't think.
Really? Okay. It's funny. Like 4 or 5 months ago, I was in that exact same boat, and I was scared, and I was like, well, and then go ahead.
Well, I just also think because I've heard people give like I've been to a lot of weddings, and so a lot of times they do a prayer before dinner or whatever, and have them sound like idiots saying the prayers. No, that's.
Well, no, I mean,
it's. Like
I think it's a thing you practice and get good at, and but 5 months ago I'd never done it before, and I'm not saying I'm good at it now, but I think that it's kind of like going to the gym. It's really hard to get into the gym, and it's really hard to get going but eventually you get better at it, and I guess that's with most things in life.
Yeah, practice.
Yeah,
I think that is with most things. So yeah.
And I'm not by any means saying that my prayers are good, or you're just
more comfortable.
One of us has to do it.
Okay, you start it. This is my first time.
So. I'll. You don't have to.
Not start it. You do it.
Yeah.
I'm just this time.
Okay.
We'll discuss next time.
And then we'll eat the jalapeno.
Okay.
All right. We'll discuss next time. I caught that. All right. Well, I'll dive right into it.
Okay.
But Lord, Father, thank you for allowing this to happen. Thank you for creating the space to make this possible. And thank you for Emma for being open to doing this, and for us being able and to have the chance to talk about you, to expand our minds and to think about things we wouldn't have otherwise thought about. Lord, as we go throughout this weekend and next week and through our lives, let us remember in the hectic moments, in the busy moments, to slow down and to remember what's most important, and that's the relationship with you, and allow us to remember to spread your good and to care for those around us, and to not get so caught up in those hectic and busy moments. So bless us with your peace and allow us to reflect your light, Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
That's all I got. You want
to?
to?
Yeah.
All right.
So what do we?
Which one do you want?
This one, because I'm pretty sure this.
Yeah, I think you're gonna regret that.
No. So am I doing this on camera?
Oh yeah. There's no point in doing it if it's not filmed.
So what's the goal? Just to see.
Eat half. Can you just like take a bite of the first half and just eat it and see how it goes? You ready? You down? Bigger than that.
You want me to eat that?
The whole half.
Oh,
Will you?
Spit it out if I need to.
Sure. Out there.
Okay.
Ready? Usually pretty good. That's gonna get spicy.
Oh.
You feel it?
I don't think I got many seeds.
Go again. There's a tiny bite. Is it hot?
It's not killing me, but I'm worried if I take another bite, it's gonna be like.
I think you can do it.
It wasn't a very big bite either.
Dude, just get in there. Eat the whole thing. It's pretty hot.
It's pretty hot. I grew
I'm used to this though. Like, I eat
You've
this
done
all
this
the
like
time.
3 times now.
No, this is the first time. It's pretty spicy. I put them in my eggs. I put them in my dinners.
How often do you eat them like this though?
Is it hot?
My eyes are getting a little watery.
I know. I thought you were like really struggling for a second.
I'm not gonna take another bite though.
Sheesh. All right.
Don't touch your eyes.
Oh, well. Sheesh.
See, it does, yeah.
I'm good.
So yeah, how often do you take a bite of that? Just like that.
You seem like it's hot. Is it hot?
I feel like if I keep talking and don't close my mouth, I don't.
I
feel
will
much.
when I'm cutting up and prepping my meals. I'll often just pop some of the jalapeno.
Yeah, one slice.
Yeah. That's the biggest bite I've ever taken. It's pretty spicy. Is my face red?
A little bit.
No.
My eyes are getting watery. So I have I grew Tabasco peppers one time, and they're like this big, but one of the hottest peppers I ever tasted.
Yeah.
And I took like the tiny little end off and was like, oh my gosh. And then my brother was right there, and I was like, here, try this.
You got him.
Oh my god, he took he took. The
You're
whole
doing pretty
thing.
good.
Yeah, I think it helps if you talk. You
Okay.
just like it makes you
We
distracted.
can't both talk at the same time, or nobody will be able to hear us. That's pretty spicy. It hurts my stomach's on fire. All right, well done.
You know, and not that you need to do this anymore, but I will tell you as a kind of like a wake up. Well, it's just good. You need a good wake up or a pick me up.
Need a jalapeno?
Eat a jalapeno or Nashville, Tennessee. They have like Nashville hot chicken.
Okay.
You get like the extra hot chicken.
I can do this.
It's like really hot and but it's a good like whew, it's like jumping in a pool.
Yeah, kind of clean your sinuses out a little
It's
bit.
like almost kind of like you get a little like
A little high?
hi like
Okay,
a little
I'm
jacked up.
just see you out there like digging through my plants, like fiending for jalapenos. My stomach hurts now.
Tell me about your garden. See if that helps.
That out there?
Yeah.
Well, it's on its tail end of its life.
Yeah.
I had 3 plant boxes that I made, and I got a 4th that I'll put out there next season. But 1 plant box for tomatoes, cherry and regular, 1 for banana peppers, 1 for jalapenos, and it flourished. I mean,
So you really only did peppers.
Yeah. I love spicy stuff.
Do you make like a salsa or do anything like that?
I've given my peppers to people who do that. I don't have the knowledge or ability. I don't know how to do that. Google, I guess, would tell me. My stomach really hurts. That was stupid. Whose idea was that?
Yours?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like burning in there.
It's
I'm gonna feel that later.
yeah. I get bad heartburn too. I'm
Yeah?
just gonna
Yeah, good times.
stand. Yeah. So that's your Friday night.
Yeah. Well done, Dane. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
What did you think? What did you think now compared to what you thought it would be?
Well, I really don't put a lot of thought into a lot of things.
You said you're a you like to
I
go
just
by
kind
the
of wing things,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes it helps me. So I really don't get like nervous about this kind of stuff. But I was definitely way less nervous than if I had to like get up and do a speech. Like
Fair.
this is very
A lot easier.
easier and natural flowing. I will say the first part I felt like it was a little rocky starting out, and then I feel like some topics I just sound like an idiot but it's a conversation, so
Yeah. I think you were fine the whole time. And we're still filming, by the way. I don't have to include any of this. You want to go ahead and cut it off?
whatever you want to.
We'll cut it off. Excuse me.